Hi everyone, my name's Kirsty Anderson and I'm the Principal Manager of Public Engagement for the Global CCS Institute. And I have to tell you, this is really something of an early Christmas treat for me to be hosting today's webinar and getting the opportunity to introduce you all to some of the great public outreach work that has gone on at the CO2 injection site in Hontomin, northwest Spain. It's 8 AM here and it's a very cold and grey Scottish morning, but I know that my day is going to get brighter because I'm being joined by Daniel Fernandez-Poulussen, who's a geologist and community relationship manager for the Ciuden CO2 storage project in Hontomin, northwest Spain. And Daniel's going to be guiding us through the very valuable public engagement lessons that they have learnt at the Hontomin site. So today we are joined by a truly international audience. So Daniel, I don't want to make you too nervous, but there are people listening in from all corners of the globe. However, if you are calling in your pajamas from the US and Canada and you've already started to fall asleep because of my very lengthy introduction, then please don't worry. The webinar is being recorded and it will be made available on our website in the very near future. So you can listen again and pass on the link to your friends or your colleagues who I think will also be interested in the topic. So hopefully you will all see from the title slide that today we're looking at public engagement lessons learned from the Hontomin Project. And now once you see Daniel's presentation, that you will all be wanting to know where you can find instructions on how to recreate some of the CO2 related activities that Daniel is going to be describing today. So like I said, this is a Christmas treat webinar, and Daniel has actually very kindly translated some of the most popular activities and recipes for us, both in Spanish and then also into English as well. So these versions of these amazing ideas that have been created in collaboration with the local council at the Hontomin site and Sweden's Science and Didactics Education Department of the National Museum of Energy, they will be available to download from the Institute website, and Kylie and I will send you out a direct link to those resources along with the link to the webinar recording later in the week. But now let me introduce you to Daniel. So there he is. Now this is really going to test my childhood Spanish a little. Daniel is a geologist who's working for Spain's publicly funded research foundation, the Fundación Ciudad de la Energía. Daniel, I'm so sorry. It's Ciuden for short, and also for those with very thick Scottish accents. Daniel has been working in the Business Development Unit of Ciuden since 2009, and he's now at their new Technology Development Centre for CO2 geological storage in the village of Hontomin in northern Spain. There he is the main point of contact for a number of CCS-related projects for Sweden. Daniel holds a Bachelor of Science in Geology from the Universidad of Oviedo, but I don't think a university degree could have really prepared him for some of the crazy activities that he's gotten involved in and to help bring the concept of CO2 storage alive for the people of Hontomin. Now, I'm just about ready to hand over to Daniel, but one last item of housekeeping. So we would really like to encourage you to submit questions to Daniel so that we can have a useful discussion at the end of the presentation. So to do that, you can submit your questions during the presentation by typing them into the questions box on your GoToWebinar control panel that you should see on your screen. And all of the questions that are submitted will be moderated by our Australian tech guru, Kylie. Kylie will pass those questions through to me to read out at the end of the discussion. And I'll try and get through as many as possible at the end of the presentation. And if there are any that we can't get through, then we'll do our best to respond to you offline. Okay, so I think that's most of our housekeeping done. So without any further delays, I'm going to hand over to Daniel to talk to you about lessons learned in public engagement. Daniel.
Okay, thank you, Kirsty, for your kind introduction. Yes, I think as well as you introduced myself, I think I should need to introduce my institution. So I'll try to give you an overview of who or what is Ciuden. Ciuden, or the Fundación Ciudad de la Energía, is a research and development institution created by the Spanish administration in 2006. And Ciuden is leading Spain's carbon capture and storage research with experimental facilities covering the full chain of CCS. One of those facilities are the ones that are shown in the image. The CO2 Center, which is a facility devoted for CO2 capture and transport, in operation since 2011, with 2 boilers located in Cubillos del Sil, which is, as you can see here in the Spanish map. And then is the Hontomin site. The Hontomin site is the CO2 storage large-scale pilot, which is located in a village in the region of Burgos, and it consists of in 2 wells of 1,600 meters depth, and is close to starting operation in the coming months. But Ciuden is also it's also much more programs than the CCS ones. As I mentioned, Ciuden is a non-profit organization created by the Spanish government, and it's conceived to promote economic and social development in Spain by carrying out projects and activities related to energy and environment, but not just in a technical point of view. It also has a program for developing the National Museum of Energy that aims to educate and inform and thereby gain more support for activities related to clean coal technologies, climate change, coal, etc. You can see in the images part of these initiatives, which is the building called Ene Thermica, which is the one part of the museum that has already opened in 2011, and you can check the link in order to know a bit more of that. There is also, as part of this Ene Museo, a unit devoted to science communication that are developing an educational program and cultural programs, and that has, fortunately, strong links with our CCS initiatives. Continuing with this aim of showing this overview of all the issues related to the project where I'm involved, here is an overview of the Compostilla project. The Compostilla project is a project funded by the European Commission under the European Energy Programme for Recovery, which was launched in 2009, and where it involves several locations. The one for CO2 capture in Compostilla, that was already mentioned. The one of Hontomin, where the pilot scale site for CO2 storage is also developed, under development. And the Tierra del Campo site, which the exploratory works have been developed by the industrial partner of the project, Endesa. The main topics to be covered during this talk will be focused on Hontomin. Well, let's start from the beginning. The beginning, when we started the project, was the need to build a strategy on public engagement. That strategy covers several issues. One of them is to establish a strong outreach team, which will be explained later in detail, to develop an integral communication plan that involves the development of materials, the key messages, etc. To develop also, early in the project, the socioeconomical characterization of the areas where the project is being under development, and hence develop a specific action plan for each of these areas. Of course, we need to monitor the key stakeholders and the media, etc., during the whole life of the project in order to be able to adapt the communication plan that has as a must the need to be flexible. Of course, the importance of of focusing on different scales is also included in this strategy. Okay, let's talk about the outreach team. The outreach team that was composed early in the project has several backgrounds. There are geologists, there are engineers, journalists, experts in marketing, etc. There are males, females, and also different in ages. So it's a mix of everything. But what we do is organize a meeting regularly, discuss the possible upgrades and the pros and cons that we are facing during the execution of the project, and also acquiring some expertise in order to be able to communicate properly for media, local population, etc. Sorry. So, one of the key issues is that we need, within this strong outreach team, to develop unified messages and to have the same, let's say, familiar faces to interact both with population as with I don't know if you hear me right. I hope so. I will continue anyway, unless you tell me anything. So, unified messages, same familiar faces.
You're okay.
Okay, thank you, Kirsty. Next is the different views on the different scales. There is the need to develop and fit the messages for each of the audiences that are being focused in the project, from local community to the national or international community or the CCS Spanish community. All of the messages have been tailored and executed or communicated all along the project. This is an example of the different activities that are within the integral communication plan. As you can see, it contains information for the media through press releases or through informative videos or micro-documentaries, and also contains activities for general public as the open date or site visits, face-to-face meetings with the local community or workshops, technical meetings, summer cruises with the university, etc. Just to illustrate them, there is some views that have been done during the life of the project. Okay. As an important part of this communication plan, we have also developed some specific information packs. The messages or the text which is included in these packs are also tailored to the different audiences. There are some of them specific for the journalists, other for local and regional authorities, or for all audiences. These brochures were developed both in Spanish as in English and are already available in the Compostilla project website. We, of course, are under the work of developing further brochures and materials that will be shared all along the life of the project. Well, and as I mentioned before during the overview of the strategy, there is also the socioeconomical characterization. We know that we needed to know the community where we are going to develop the project. So the first issue was to enter in contact with them around 4 years ago and know their worries, know their opinion on the CCS or on the possibility of developing the project in their region or in their community. It was quite important to know which was the view or the baseline conditions. I mean, the first idea on the project and their worries or their perceived benefits that they were thinking on the project. And this first graphic shows that there were a so-so opinion. Some of them were disagree, others agree, and most of them have an opinion on the possibility that CCS could contribute to climate change. But once we acquired these baseline conditions, then we started we deployed the rest of the works, including site visits or contact with the community. And the results after a year was, I think, quite amazing. For example, in the graphic, which is in the top right, you can see that after receiving information, roughly 75% agree on the fact that CCS is a good idea to mitigate climate change. And even more, the next graphic shows that most of the people are okay with the fact that the project could be beneficial for the region. So this is a good result. I think that communication and social monitoring leads to an improved understanding of your local community. And in fact, the other graphics in this presentation show the importance of the local works in terms of communication. The graphs simply shows that the region where the project is being developed, called León and Burgos, are the values with the most understanding on the project and on the issues related to the project. As a consequence of this study, and once we understand or we start to understand their views on the project, we could define a set of specific action plans which were tailored for each of the areas where the project is being developed. The one for the storage area led to a strategy of a proactive approach with a strong media interaction, and where the interaction was also quite strong with the local population, authorities, and key stakeholders. So, as a first view, our first works related to these works in public perception was the need to build trust. And this trust could also be achieved through a set of activities and a set of way of acting. As a key one is the transparency. You need to be transparent and communicate effectively. You need to adapt the messages to all the audiences, and you need to dialogue. It's not a monologue. You simply need to hear a lot or listen a lot to the population, their worries, concerns, and their pros, of course, on the project, and engage. It's not about convince the people.
Daniel, thanks so much for the overview of the approach that you've taken to your engagement activities. I think it's been a brilliant overview of the work that's been going on across the project. And I was just wondering if you can tell us a bit about how the Hontomin Project in particular, so the storage element, has been received by the local community, given that particularly in Europe, onshore CO2 storage has had a bit of a tricky reception at times in Europe. So has it always been welcomed in the Hontomin community, or have you ever had any opposition? If you're able to just give us a bit of background on that, that would be great.
Okay. Well, in our case, when we arrived there in the area of Hontomin, the people was quite it's not the word is not uncomfortable. The word maybe is something related to when a stranger enters in your territory. So who are you? What are you going to do there, etc. But There's these initial concerns turned in other, let's say, really positive position on the project once we could start with our plan in communication. We simply start to interact with the local population. We were keen on showing all the works that were involved in the project. And in the next slide, I simply want to show some of these activities. For example, we were, after a time where the staff of the project was accepted in the community, we were invited to participate in the local festivals in the area. The Merindad of Rio Vierna is the council where Hontomin is located, and we were invited to the annual festival. In fact, we were invited to present the CO2 storage program of Hontomin after the Holy Mass in the program. And it's also worth to mention that we included in the program of this annual festival the execution of activities for children related to CO2. It was called Bye Bye CO2. In addition, there is just a mix of the activities that were developed in the area and also at national level. We were present in different workshops presenting our activities. We arranged the guided tours. We had meetings with the local community. We adapt activities for children, and we also developed some further materials in terms of communication, brochures, press releases, or news appearances in the radio or in TV. So as a whole, we could fortunately develop the project properly through a good, flexible communication plan.
Fantastic. Daniel, I think the spread of activities that you've undertaken is really very impressive, and I think there have been some questions coming through on timing and media, which we will pick up at the end. But I also think that one of the things that many projects struggle with is providing a value proposition or being able to really explain the benefits for local communities, particularly near a CO2 storage project, so getting those local benefits put across. And I think one of the really interesting things that you've managed to do at Hontomin was to set the outreach programme in the context of science innovation and try and create this sense of local pride. And I just wondered how important you think that has been in terms of an important element of the work that you've been doing based on maybe some of the results of the social studies that you had carried out initially.
Yes, in fact, the studies that we developed early in the project was key in order to understand the worries and the degree of knowledge of the people in terms related to the technology involved in the project. And what we checked with the results was that there were many issues related to geology, environment, climate change, or the greenhouse effect that were, let's say, a bit difficult or tricky to understand to part of this population. So once we had a good interaction with the local council, the local community, etc., we had a good idea. The idea was to join efforts, and the sentence is clear: better together. We see the opportunity to collaborate jointly in the development of a proposal in a call at the national level on the promotion of a scientific culture and innovation. So we joined efforts, we drew the proposal, we submitted, and we succeed. So we had, let's say, a set of activities or workshops in a project called Promotion of Scientific Culture and Innovation among the population of La Merindad de Rio Vierna, which is the council of Hontomin, in collaboration with Ciuden. We already achieved also extra funds during the project, which was 1 year length. And well, the project, as I mentioned, is executed jointly with the local council and has several activities with different focus and different goals, but has a, let's say, a common issue, which is all the activities are related to the key issues. Let's say not just CO2 storage or CCS, it's just to let the community be aware of geology, the environment, sustainability, and this kind of activities, which were developed all along the year, both in Hontomin as in Soto Palacios, which is the capital of the local council, and sometimes were developed by ourselves, by Ciuden, others jointly, but others were developed simply by the people or the staff of the local council, especially the ones that are shown here, the Do I Know You, CO2, which will be soon available in the Institute's website. Just as an example, there is a program in the annual festival in Soto Palacios on the blood sausage. The blood sausage is a well-known product at national level, and here in Soto Palacios and in the Merindad there is well-known high-quality products related to this blood sausage, and each year a festival is arranged with different activities. And they are simply colored in blue, the ones which are part of this joint project, which were executed in the frame of this program. I will go quickly through these projects, through these activities, just to give you an overview of the activities which were developed. And sorry to repeat, but all of these activities will be available in the website of the Institute, just to share with you our activities and to invite you to adapt to your own projects. Well, the first one was called Science, Cooking and Blood Sausage. It was developed under the program of activities of the Blood Sausage Festival, and it was focused on a chef cooking different recipes with blood sausage, and of course with exotic ingredients as dry ice or nitrogen, and a chemist from the local University of Burgos explaining the chemical reactions that were taking place during the elaboration of these meals. This is the other example of the activities for children. CO2, Do I Know You? In fact, it contains many activities that were developed in the community center of Soto Palacios and was under the supervision of the staff of the local council. The children did, for example, as you can see in the bottom right corner, some miniatures of CO2 storage with sand, plasticine, and oil and colored water. Other activities for a different audience was arranged during the last year, and it was related to different talks on issues of the audience interest, or as how to read the electricity bill, or a sustainable or responsible energy consumption. They were focused or arranged as a part of this sustainability workshop. Another one, as I mentioned before, is not just on CCS. It's called Solar Kitchen, and it was arranged during the Blood Sausage Festival also, Unfortunately, this day was quite gray, cloudy, so the meal wasn't properly cooked, but each of the tenants made its own solar kitchen and could bring it to home, and they are already available to cook with the energy of the sun when the sun shines, of course. Two contests were also developed in the project. One of them is called Geology and Environment of the Merindad. A platform was launched in a website called concursomerindad.com, and there was an economic prize for the winner and also the possibility or the fact of being the cover of the local magazine of La Merindad to the winner, as you can see in the center of the image. The other contest for children and on drawing skills was the topic of the future of the planet, and was also with several prizes for the winners, but of course not on economic issues, it's just with toys. Other activities for adults, of course, were related to wine. Wine is well known here. There is good quality of wines in this region, and we arranged two types of workshops. The first one was called Geology and Wine, and apart from wine tasting, the attendants received information on the different characteristics or how to affect the characteristics of the soil or the weather to the different types of grapes or the vineyards. The second one was called Wine and CO2, and a professor explained the role of CO2 and other components during the elaboration of wine, of different wines, including carbonic maceration, or even champagne. And of course, there was a wine tasting in the end. And here's one of the that I like the most. It was called Cooking with CO2, and it consisted in several recipes where CO2 has a key role, CO2 as dry ice, and it was developed two times. The first one was in the Soto Palacios, in the community center, where the children were able to make their own recipes, and the monitors were in charge of handling the dry ice in order to prevent any risk. And the second one was related with people also of Ene Museo, the National Museum of Energy, which were also in charge of the first one, but they went further with Halloween recipes. I'll show you later. You can see the recipes here: the fruit volcano, the summer milkshake, or the penguins in the mist. I like them, and in fact, I'll show you in the next slide how simply it is. It's just olives, carrots, creamy cheese, ham, cheese, and sliced bread, and of course dry ice in order to generate a mystic mist all around the penguins. The children were completely engaged with these activities. And as I mentioned before, this is the Halloween recipe. It wasn't a pumpkin, but with an orange was the good result too. And as you can see in the bottom left image, the activity was developed in family, so the parents were able to manage the dry ice, and the children were in charge of cutting the fruits in pieces. Another activity, a gincana, which was developed 4 times in Hontomin this summer, where 2 teams, the blue team and the red team, had several tests all around the village in issues related with CO2 storage. Of course, were quite simple, but it was quite funny to see all the children running, asking the neighbors on where to find the CO2 molecule, etc. You can see here them, and including the visit to the pilot storage site with the drilling rig in the background in the bottom left image. Well, of course, for adults, there were also arranged a set of visits during the summer where all the attendants were received with specific packs of information, including the DVDs or brochures that they could bring back to home. And of course, they received information from the staff of Ciuden involved in these works in the area. And as a result of this visit, we gave some questionnaires at the end of the visit, and the people, more than 80% of them were delighted with the works that are being developed in the region and just simply willing to visit the plant once it's in operation. So, the talk is called Lessons Learned, so I will try to summarize. I think that first you need to know your community and adapt to them. You need to be flexible enough in order to rearrange some of your plans. You need to promote transparency in your communication. You can't avoid information. You simply need to share and dialogue with your local community. You need to have a proactive communication. This is a must in order to prevent some potential news against the project. And you need to adapt your materials and messages to the audience which are going to receive these materials or messages. And as a result of this joint project with the local council, the education programs are a great method for community engagement. But overall, you need to listen and listen again to know your community. So what's next? We already have plans for developing further activities, and in fact we achieved another project under the same call, but the next year, this time in close collaboration with the local council of Cubillos, where the CO2 capture plant is located, and includes workshop as scientists for a day, the origin of coal, or plants and CO2. And that's all. Thank you for your attention, and special thanks for all the funding, and of course my colleagues in the local council of Merindad de Rio Vierna and my colleagues here in Ciuden. Thank you.
Daniel, thank you so much for that really inspiring presentation. I can tell you right now that Penguins in the Mist is going to be making an appearance on my Christmas dinner table this year. I'm not going to be using a solar oven, though. I can guarantee there will be no sunshine in Scotland. So the questions have been pouring in, kind of thick and fast, so I'm going to try and combine some of them, Daniel. I think really the first question was related to the overview and just some of the timing that was involved with your public engagement strategy, and people are particularly interested in how you've managed to get support from the media. So what would be the key factors in getting positive engagement and support from the media, and in terms of timing, how did you work your engagement with media at the same time as your engagement with the local population?
Right. The timing is clear. You need to engage with the media as soon as you can. In fact, what we did was start early in the execution of the project with press conference, guided visit or tours with the media, and developing some press releases regularly. So this is a key special issue because media has the the power to communicate broadly and instantly. So you need to take them into account since early in the project and with the all methods or means that you can give to this effort.
Fantastic. Thanks, Daniel. And on a similar topic, we've had a question through from Alexandro Fernandez, who's first of all telling you great presentation, but also saying in terms of working with a different stakeholder group, so to work with the public and with the local communities, you've had some success, but how have you found dealing with local and regional administrations? And often they have found that there may be some difficulties, some arguments politically between parties. So how have you found navigating those more political issues?
Well, being part of a public initiative launched by the central government have an advantage in this issue, because we simply engage with the different politicians and administration staff with the aim of showing our interest in, for example, providing an extra support or giving an extra knowledge in terms of criteria for any regulatory issues that may need to improve in the near future. And in fact, there is close collaboration with local authorities and administration in terms of sharing our work plan, and of course they are also regularly visited with our views on the project and the outcomes.
Okay, and just Daniel, for context for people not familiar with the Spanish situation, is there broad sort of consensus among the different political parties in favour of CCS in Spain? Is it a relatively amenable topic?
Well, CCS appears, and it's also oriented as the European vision, appears as one of the key measures for mitigating climate change in different national level strategies, science and communication strategies of the corresponding ministry. States CCS as one of the key issues to do research on, and of course related to the Ministry on Environment, CCS is also mentioned as an initiative, and many of the political parties are aware of this measure. In fact, there was a political change 2 years ago in Spain, and both before and after, CCS remains a measure in terms of climate change mitigation.
Great, thanks Daniel. We've also had some questions through from some people in the Netherlands who have specifically asked that you've put a lot of emphasis on listening to people's concerns. What they're interested in was, did you have to adapt the CO2 storage project as a result of listening to some of your local community stakeholders' concerns? And if you did not have to make any adaptations to the actual project, how have you been able to show that you are listening and you're responding to your local community?
Well, I think it's the key to maintain a dialogue with different people of the local community. And this outreach team and these faces that are more or less familiar in the community are responsible to hear their concerns, their views, etc. Just an example, as a consequence of this dialogue, we noticed that there was some, let's say, missing information of basic issues related to climate change or CO2. And this is the consequence of, or this is the fact that led to the arrangement of this project together with the local council. And fortunately, it turned into a more supportive local community once these issues were explained through different activities.
Yeah, and I think, Daniel, your community assessment, that the social research that you did was clearly very important, and as a result, the targeting of your outreach work and your communication efforts have been more successful, right? As a result of the information that you initially got from doing your research.
Yes, for sure. That's key. And in fact, these social studies were developed during several years and with different focus. And what we noticed was that this kind of studies or works gave us valuable information that could help us to define or to improve our communication plan.
Daniel, I don't want to put you on the spot, but we have had a couple of people asking if it is possible to give a rough guide as to the kind of investment that has been made in this public engagement, outreach and communication work. People are asking, you know, to give an idea for other projects, the amount of time and rough idea of budget. Is it possible to give an indication of that?
Well, for a point of the time that you need to invest in terms of staff, of own staff, on these issues, I must say that the time was quite huge in terms of the different activities which were related, but they are essential for the correct development of the project. And it doesn't mean a huge invest in money. For example, the different activities which were arranged with the local council has a budget for a whole year of activities that was less than 20,000 euros, excluding personal cost.
Wow. And you know, I would like to add to Daniel's comment that I have gone through with him all of the material which will be on our website to share with you about the projects and the programs that they have established at Hontomin through the local council and with the Energy Museum. And none of the activities are particularly costly. They involve a lot of time and effort in terms of putting research in and working out what will work with the community, but the actual activities themselves, none of them are particularly expensive activities, but the importance that comes through loud and clear when you see these activities is the importance of face time with the teams that are involved in the project and having access to experts to make sure that you build this level of trust within the community. Is that fair, Daniel?
Yeah, completely. Absolutely.
We also have had a question through about is it possible to provide an example or a positive value proposition in terms of jobs and employment? How have you handled this area about, you know, will this project bring employment to our region? I know that the area that you are working in Spain, they have been doing a lot of regeneration. Has this been an important part of your communication project, or is it more focused on just the science and innovation and new technology?
Well, in fact, it was part of this discussion with the local community. We are aware of the fact that CO2 storage issues has an opportunity in terms of job creation, but from a really technological point of view. But of course, developing this kind of project in the region allows the regions to receive also more visit, more to improve the tourism, and of course, related to the whole CCS chain, the analysis we did in the capture area are also keen on developing this project, because the coal mining and the coal related works are in certain mode in its decline, and it's seen as an opportunity of job creation. But of course, related to science and innovation, they are also keen in being part of this environmental solution.
Fantastic. I have two more questions that I'm going to try and include before we wrap up, Daniel. The first one, I'm not sure if you have done any work on this, so I'll just check. We've had a question asking if you have done any research on the impact of the communication work that you have done in terms of dollars per ton of CO2. So have you been able to quantify the impact of the work that you've done in terms of permission for your project to go, social permission for your project to go ahead?
Well, it's the first time I think.
Sorry.
This focus, and to be honest, this work or this comparison wasn't done. Simply, we execute, or we understood since early in the project to develop this parallel program on public perception, and it's part of the CO2 storage program.
And also, it's probably worth pointing out that you're a publicly funded body, so you have a remit to do these knowledge sharing and outreach processes as part of your work, correct?
Yes, completely correct.
Daniel, do you think it is important for, as a publicly funded body, do you think it is valuable that it is Sweden that is leading on this work along with the local council? Do you think this makes a difference between having this sort of outreach work being carried out by an energy company or an oil company?
Well, in the first step, I think that the population that is interviewed pointed out that there is a difference between the different promoters, and as a public research foundation, we were best or better received. But our experience within the Compostilla project was that the interaction with these utilities, as is the case of our industrial partner Endesa, led to positive results with a proper communication plan. I mean, we were also involved in all the works related to social or public engagement in the area where the exploratory works for the demo scale projects on CO2 storage were developed, and we also obtained quite good results in terms of engaging the population with the project, also arranging, for example, visits to the Natural Museum of Energy, of course, showing the basics and the pros on CCS for the intended community. So, on the one hand, it's true that it's good in the first time or in the first step to be a public institution, but it doesn't mean, on the other hand, that we are just the only ones that can develop properly a communication plan and succeed with the project. Of course, there isn't a magic formula, but I think that everyone or every promoter should search for the proper strategy to succeed with their project.
Daniel, thank you so much. And I think to just to echo what you have said, there has been a number of very complimentary comments coming through about the work that you've managed to achieve in Hontomin and the outreach programs. I just wanted to emphasise again that Daniel has spent a lot of time translating some of the materials so that people are able to access some of these more creative programs, and they will be on our website. We will send you a direct link to that material along with the link to the recording of this webinar. So please do take a look. It is fantastic work that has been done. Daniel, there was one other question that came through that it may be too short a time to answer, but I will ask it and we will try and respond perhaps in written form. So it was just a question around some of the earthquake activity that was reported recently around Europe, and the question was about some concerns if there was performance of EOR and there had been some seismic activity occurred and misunderstandings about this. Has there been any response from the Hontomin project just because you're working in CO2 storage? Have you had to deal with that particular issue?
Yes. In fact, we were aware of that, and we simply did two answers. The one of them is that our site is in fact an underground laboratory, as a research facility, which is, let's say, too instrumented. I mean, there are 30 microseismic stations that record continuously the noise and micro movements or cracks in the underground. And on the other hand, as part of our communication with the local university, we were invited after these seismic activities in our concerns in Europe to share at let's say 16 years old school audience a topic called the forces of the nature and the seismic forces. So on the one hand, let's say from a technical point of view, we are working in defining properly all the issues that are related to seismic risks, and on the other hand, we are communicating this kind of forces to the general public and as well as to, let's say, a bit less than adult people.
Thank you, Daniel. I think it is a very positive approach that you have taken across the board, that you want to present facts but give them in context, and it's to improve knowledge and education amongst the communities and the other stakeholders that you're dealing with. I think it's a very proactive and positive approach. The very last question that we're going to just briefly ask you, because I know that people are very interested, and this one's come from one of our Australian colleagues. So they were asking how you have managed to convince project directors and people involved in the project and your steering committees that this was that the outreach and communication work of your project was worth investing in from the outset. Was this a difficult challenge?
Well, fortunately, not in our case. We had a really clear idea since the early beginning of the project, and the director and the people involved in the steering board of our programs had a clear view on that this kind of research tasks are a must, as important as the more technical ones.
Great. Okay, well people, I think that's the end of our webinar, and I really want to thank you all very much for making the effort to tune in and ask so many questions. Daniel, I do apologise. I did promise you I would keep the questions short. But I do think it's fair to say that this is definitely a topic of interest. And Daniel, I'm also thinking that for possibly our next knowledge sharing event, we could do a broadcast from a kitchen. You know, we could do penguins in the mist over the holidays and be the Jamie Oliver and Nigella Lawson of CO2 perhaps.
That would be
So,
nice.
just again to emphasize that for those of you who are interested in actually learning more or getting a breakdown of some of the CO2 recipes or the specific public engagement activities, Daniel mentioned the Gymkhana and the Magic Rocks of Hontomin. All of these things are going to be explained in PowerPoint presentation packs on our website, and we will send that link round to you this week. So please do take the time to read and digest that information. And also, if you are brave enough to try out some of these activities at home, then let us know, and let us know of some activities and outreach work that you might be doing in your own projects or in your own educational work. We're really keen to share some of these good examples with the wider CCS community. So that's all from us. I just really, Daniel, wanted to thank you for your presentation and also for all the effort that you've put in to create some of these resources and to make them available for the wider CCS community. I think everyone really appreciates the effort that you have put in. So thank you very much, and good day everybody.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Daniel.